The Indiana Pacers force a Game 7 in the NBA Finals after a must-win in Game 6. We'll tell you how Tyrese Haliburton and company dominated the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's a Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's go.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. But there was only one. Game 6 of the NBA Finals. The Pacers win, which means, John, we get a Game
7, baby.
Oh, does it get any better than this? We'll break down how Tyrese Haliburton and the Indiana Pacers won this game, what was going on with the Thunder offense, and we'll preview Game 7 along with a whole bunch of other stuff that we want to talk about in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. So, of course, thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are here 7 days a week covering every single game across the association. And yeah, the finals might be over soon, but we're still going to be covering the biggest stories daily. So stick with us throughout the offseason here. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On Fridays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at Nola Jake on Twitter, and the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
And I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast on Twitter, at John_Karalis.
John Karalis, big Celtics, obviously Celtics, big Pacers guy. You've been calling this since they were taking on the Cavaliers earlier in the playoffs here, but a massive win for the Indiana Pacers, 108-91 over the Thunder. That score doesn't make it look close, and it wasn't even as close as that score indicated in this one at times, I think. John, what's your initial takeaway from this game?
Well, I feel like the Pacers, obviously they played a very OKC-like game. With the defense, the swarming defense, the anticipation, the turnovers that they forced. They really they stepped up to the moment, and the Thunder did not it did not look like they felt the urgency. And then I know that sounds like such a cliche, but this was an opportunity to win the NBA Finals. I did not see a team going out there trying to take this game. I saw a team playing kind of passive, playing like part of this was the Thunder telegraphing kind of what their offense was, and the Pacers just jumping passing lanes, attack every time somebody on the Thunder would kind of turn his back. Somebody, TJ McConnell, Tyrese Haliburton, was there to kind of pounce on a ball that was just a little out. They were a little loose. It was just, I did not see the Thunder looking at this as, we got to go take this game because we do not want to take a chance with a Game 7. I saw a team that felt very kind of like this was just a February game, and they're like, I think they just feel like they can just go home and win it at home, but that's dangerous.
That is a dangerous way to try and play. But you're right. They looked like they knew that they could lose this game, and the Pacers looked like they could not lose this game. And thus it kind of went that way. You know, you mentioned the Pacers jumping on those turnovers, getting out in transition, running 22 points in the fast break, 19 points off turnovers. They were in transition 23% of this game. Right? Half-court offense is not nearly as efficient or good as transition offense is. So if you can get out and run that much, that's truly an impressive way to do it, right? Their half-court offense for the Pacers was worse than the Thunder was in this game by a decent margin. Neither was great, but it was particularly bad for the Pacers, and they still blew out the Thunder because of being able to get out in transition and run. And look, it seemed to really start with Tyrese Haliburton. Kind of, look, I don't want to say we weren't sure if he was going to play in this game. If the dude's leg was like attached to his body, he was going to play in this game. Like, come on, right?
Yeah.
So we knew he was going to do that, but talk about like kind of sheer force of will. Not a great shooting night for him. finishing just 5 for 12 for 14 points, but a plus 25. He was a plus 25 in the first half of this game, I think. That's pretty impressive in just under 23 minutes of action.
So it's one of those kind of like inspirational performances. Everybody knows, you hear the reports that if this was the regular season, he would miss multiple weeks. And he's out there playing. Lord knows what kind of kinesio tape rig they've got going on underneath those compression tights there. That has to be just some sort of like art project under there. But great job by the training staff to get him ready. Everybody was afraid of calf tightness and playing. Everybody's afraid of what those consequences are. And I don't want to even say it out loud. I don't believe in jinxes, but I'm not going to take any chances with him. But when he comes out there and he puts that kind of like, hey, your leader is gutting through this and is the I can walk, I can play guy, then of course, everyone else is going to step up. And honestly, the pace at which Indiana plays continues to be phenomenal. And they played at such a faster, even in the half court, the cutting was great. The ball movement was great. You had your typical Indiana pockets of, this is the TJ McConnell time. This is the Obi Toppin time. This is the Andrew Nembhard time. This is the Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton didn't shoot well, but he was 3 of 7 from 3. So, and the defense, like we said,
awesome in this game. Siakam was incredible.
Right.
Getting switched on to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, basically doing everything he needed to do. I thought he was outstanding. He's been outstanding this series, but defensively to slow down and limit and frustrate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and we'll get to him in the next segment a little bit more here, but 8 turnovers for Shai is something, man, right? Like, and they were going to win this game. It was very clear, but they kind of needed that to kind of get him off balance and get the rest of the Thunder offense completely out of sync, right? There was a stretch where it was about 7 minutes of game time, including the first 5 minutes or so of the third quarter, where the Thunder straight up didn't score. It was wild to see. Like, I never would have expected that at all. And you mentioned kind of everybody stepping up. That's kind of been the theme for this Pacers team, I think, during this run, right? These bench guys making a massive impact. I think it gets much more impactful than TJ McConnell and what we saw from him, and Obi Toppin making threes in that flurry that they had in the, late in the third, fourth quarter to really bury this game. You're just like, oh boy, when those guys get going, right? Toppin going 4 for 7 from 3. We talked about that in game 1, helped them get that win that we covered too. And then TJ McConnell with the 4 steals. And look, if there's anything that kind of sums up how out of sync, how out of sorts OKC was, how many times does TJ McConnell need a backcourt steal for you to realize maybe when this dude's on the court, we need to be paying attention to this, let alone in a 6-game series, 7-game series. When he got that one in the third, it was just like, oh yeah, OKC doesn't seem prepared for this at all.
No, they never kind of adjusted to the pressure. They never said, they had one brief run in the mid third quarter where I was like, guys, it's still not done yet. 27-point lead. They got back down to 20. And I was like, you guys, if OKC ends this quarter strong, it could be a different story. But the Pacers
did not.
And the Pacers did exactly what you're supposed to do. They started the quarter strong. They ended the quarter strong. They, the middle, okay, fine. But they ended strong, and that, they held it off. But that's McConnell being able to, again, roam. So you talk about Siakam and, the Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander likes to drive. Siakam stands him up, and so he has to turn around and go reset the offense. And as soon as he turns around, boom, there is McConnell just jumping into it, because you can take your chance. This is the Pacers. They are so high risk, high reward. They take these chances. They take the risks. And that's what makes them so exciting. What makes them so prone to these big, wild swings. So it's crazy. The stat of the game to me is that OKC shot better from the field. They shot 41.9%. The Pacers shot 41.3%, but they took 92 shots compared to Oklahoma City's 74, all because of the defense, all because of the turnovers. And so that's how, and then of course you make 7 more 3-pointers. That's going to get you,
Let's look at them a little bit more coming up here next. Let's kind of focus on the Thunder in the next segment. What went wrong for them? I want to talk about Chet Holmgren, right? That is a big nothing burger from him in this one. We'll break down what went wrong for the Thunder, how they need to get right. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Car Gurus. I'm a big car guy, actually, so shopping for a car should be exciting. Should be one of the more fun things you could do. Not exhausting, but between confusing prices, hidden fees, it can be very overwhelming. And that's why I love using Car Gurus. They help you cut through the noise to show you the best deals with full confidence. And with over 4 million listings, Car Gurus has more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the US. Look, they're going to verify dealers, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right choice. So you don't need to second guess yourself. If you're looking for a deal you can trust, Car Gurus makes it easy to compare vehicles side by side with unbiased deal ratings. One of my favorite features, price drop alerts, so you know exactly when the perfect car is available for your budget. Plus, they have in-depth vehicle details to give you peace of mind before stepping onto any lot. So buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.com, cargurus.com. And thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For your second listen, maybe your team isn't in the NBA Finals. It's okay. We got expert draft coverage for you as well. Check out the 2025 Locked On NBA Mock Draft, a 5-episode series with the most comprehensive draft analysis from NBA experts, college experts, and draft experts. Find the 2025 Locked On NBA Mock Draft on NBA Big Board and Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, John, we looked at the Pacers and kind of what they did, but let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. Beyond them just looking like, cool, we'll just doing this at home in Game 7, which is really how it definitely appeared. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for the heroics we've seen from him throughout this series, throughout the postseason, this game was atrocious for him. Like, there's just no getting around it. 7 for 15, 21 points. Okay, whatever. But 8 turnovers. Like, that's not going to get it done at all. And, look, we mentioned Siakam, right? And he's an incredible defender. We've known that for a while. Looked like he was literally possessed before the game and traveling backwards in time back to the Raptors. That eye move was a little bit creepy there, man. And then
very Undertaker.
Yeah, very Undertaker. And so he comes out and does that. But look, even Tyrese Haliburton, with the injury that he has, looked really good defensively. It just looked like a team that knew what the Thunder were going to do, and it allowed them to really force a ton of those turnovers.
Yeah, but what's really confusing is how the Thunder came out strong, and if they didn't
for the first 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah, they didn't ride that momentum. I don't know if they relaxed. I don't know if they thought like, oh, we got it, and then they just never could get it. I have no idea why they came out so flat, other than, look, this is a really young team and they have not been here before. The Pacers, for all of the ups and downs this season, they have been to conference finals. Siakam does have a ring. Rick Carlisle has a ring, has been to multiple finals, has played in the finals and won rings as a player. They have some championship DNA in there. And so they are, I think, a little bit more aware of the moment. And so sometimes in that spot, you try to do enough. And like the last time we did the podcast, we were talking about how I think Shai is struggling with am I the takeover guy? Am I the setup guy? You know, you need Chet Holmgren, you need Jalen Williams to come in and produce, and you get 20 points from those guys combined, only 4 from Holmgren. And so now Shai is sitting there like, geez, Chet is off. J-Dub is not really there. Dort isn't hitting his moonshot threes. What do I do? And so he couldn't do either. And I think the frustration just kind of set in, and I think the whole team just kind of went flat at the same time. But 2 assists for SGA through the first 3 quarters. That's terrible. That right there is as damning as, you know, the lack of offensive production overall. He needs to be setting up his guys, but you need something from Chet. You just got to get something from Chet. And J-Dub minus
40.
Minus 40.
What?
That's
how many in under 27 minutes?
20, yeah, less than 27 minutes. A minus
That's nuts.
40. That is outrageous. Alex Caruso minus 33. I mean, the benches again, like the last time we talked, the benches are like, you get nothing from Caruso. You get nothing from these guys. It's almost like, which team can play like the Oklahoma City Thunder?
You saw it basically all be on Shai's shoulders in this game, I think. And look, I'm not trying to make that as an excuse for him, because he did not play well and he's simply got to be better. But 4 points for Chet Holmgren is not going to work. And it's not even that. Like, he was not good rebounding in this game either. I don't know what it was. He looked passive. He looked like he has 5 defensive rebounds in this game, and basically all 5 of those went right to him. You did not see him boxing people out. You did not see him fighting for position. You did not see him doing any of the things that a 7-foot dude needs to be doing. And they needed some help on the boards, right? You had the Indiana Pacers grab 11 offensive boards. At a certain point, just try and limit and control what you can control, right? Indiana had 14 second chance points compared to just 6 for OKC. That's where some of the game gets away from you. That's how you start to chip away at this lead that they had and get back into the contest here. But if you're not going to have one of your starters play like that, it's not going to work. Yeah. And these are the guys that also need to step up. And when guys are stepping up for the Pacers and the Thunder players aren't, particularly at home when role players are going to play better, and we'll see how that impacts game 7. Yeah, you're going to lose by 30 and get embarrassed in this one.
This is why I really feel like this isn't just the whenever we see a team kind of like stumble, we put our own thing on the team and just assume that that's what they're thinking. But I really do feel like at some point during this game, the Thunder kind of collectively decided we'll just get them at home, because
that was like midway through the third when everyone got the ball.
For sure. Like once they got it down to 20 and the Pacers kind of took it back, that was it. Like they missed that opportunity. And even I guess in the beginning of the third quarter, when they couldn't hit a shot, it's almost like that run that the Pacers made. I mean, the Thunder made in the middle of the third quarter was more Pacers kind of started screwing up a little bit and the Thunder took advantage. And once the Pacers tightened up, it just was over. Like, I don't think OKC was like, okay, we're screwed here, but we still have time. Let's get it together. I didn't see that. So with Chet, he went up for that alley-oop. He botched it. He couldn't catch it clean. He missed the alley-oop. Comes down. He puts his hands on his head. Very demonstrative. So clearly frustrated with himself. Like that kind of stuff is when I see a player doing that on the floor, I'm thinking like he's in his head. He's not getting back. He's not putting this play behind him. He's not moving on. I think they let a lot of these mistakes pile up in their own heads, and they because they have that home court in game 7, they never just had that feeling of the so-called desperation. So yeah. I never saw that. Chet Chet, I think, look, he's been playing for what, a year and a half, right? Because of the injury.
Mm-hmm.
So this is completely new. The moment is very, very big here. And I don't know. Game 7 can be totally different, but they needed something from him. He mentally just couldn't focus and give them and fight, like no fight whatsoever.
None.
No
That's
fight.
what was so surprising, right? Like, and you saw it on the rebound. Like, he was like, whatever. If it comes to me, that's great. I'll grab the board. If not, like, they were just lacking that killer instinct. Like,
they
edge.
did not have it at all. Very confusing for a game 6, potential closeout game.
Yeah. Look, I can understand that at times, in certain things. It goes back to like that when Siakam was talking to the reporter from Indianapolis, I think, and it was like, how could they play harder than you? And it's like, I don't know. It's like, I think that was in the Knicks series, right? And it's like, sometimes that happens in a game here. And his whole thing was, it's not that we didn't play hard. It's we played hard, but they played harder. You can't say that about this game. Right? Like, you can't, if you were to ask that same question to OKC, they can't be like, we played hard, but they played harder, because you did not see this OKC team play hard. And I think that's an important point to make of, there are certain games when you do need to bring it, when you do need to be amped up and ready to go. And like, what more than a closeout game? You said it in the beginning. All right, we'll just get him at home in game 7. Like, yeah, that sounds great, but that is a completely dangerous thing to try and do.
Yeah. you do not want to sit there and be like, I will get a game 7 at home.
No, well, let's get into that. Let's talk a little bit about game 7, because I want to dive some more into the numbers here, what the teams need to do. We'll do kind of like a mini preview here and maybe look at where each team's head's at. Also, we're going to play a real or fake that I've got that I'm going to throw at John right out of the break that you're not going to want to miss. This literally, John, might be the most obvious real or fake we've ever had. That's coming up here next to today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Wayfair. Look, it's the summer. There's nothing like stepping into your own outdoor space and feeling like you've escaped to a personal oasis. So if you're wanting to update your patio this season, Wayfair has made it so easy to turn it into a space that feels like yours, comfortable, stylish, and ready for summer. And Wayfair has everything you need to level up your outdoor space. Conversation set, outdoor bars, fire pits, hot tubs, gazebos, and yes, even the perfect string lights to set the vibe. It's like giving your backyard that resort feel without the resort price tag. So whether you're looking for, new outdoor furniture, some modern looking lounge chairs, you can completely transform your space. And my favorite part, because I order everything off of Wayfair, free delivery. And fast. Look, I don't have a big truck. Do you? Can you just go to the store, buy a huge box, lug it back to your place? I can't do that. You get free, fast, and totally hassle-free delivery, even with larger items. So don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis today with Wayfair and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop a huge outdoor selection. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And thank you for making a Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are here 7 days a week covering the biggest stories around the NBA, or at least that's what we will be doing, I guess, in the offseason. There's still one more game to go here. So for your second listen, check out Locked On Pacers, Locked On Thunder. They're going to be covering it all here as we get to the greatest thing we can get, a game 7 in the NBA Finals. Only the 9th time in the last 50 years we've gotten a game 7, the first since 2016, which was Cavs Warriors. So enjoy this one. I know we're all going to be doing it over here at the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Game 7, John. Real or fake? That's what I teased.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Real or fake?
Real or fake? I don't know what's coming.
So James Johnson was ejected from the game with about a minute left to go. He played 2 minutes, went 0 for 1, and had an ejection.
Okay.
Real or fake? James Johnson is the most likely NBA player in the league to get ejected after 2 minutes in the NBA Finals.
Oh, yeah. I got to say that's got to be real. That's got to be real.
Gotta be real. There are other people that might do it early, but 2 minutes in,
two minutes in,
blowout.
because the other candidates are like Draymond Green.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those, but those guys wouldn't do it 2 minutes in. He's got to wait till at least halfway through the first quarter to kick somebody in the groin. So I would say James Johnson. Yeah. And like the thing about James Johnson committing that foul is when James Johnson commits the foul on you, you're like, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. May I have another? That's a bad man. Like,
yes, he's look, talk about having that, like, just vet that gets it, that knows what they need to do. I got to cover him here a little bit in New Orleans. That type of dude, James Johnson, this season is averaging in the regular season 0.7 points per game, right? 0.7 points per game. He's played 5 games now in the postseason here, averaging 1.8 points per game. And that's like a dude you can't get rid of off of that team. He's so important to them. And just having that vet that's going to push you hard in practice, he is definitely an intimidating dude. What a stat line, though.
That's awesome.
2 minutes, 1 ejection.
Yeah, they love him. They love him. They were talking about it during the broadcast. He's just
what a great moment for James Johnson being ejected, because he's like, I don't care that we're blowing you out. Like,
whatever happens in Game 7, Pacers fans just got to feel happy that they got that kind of game. Haliburton with that kind of, like, in basketball terms, heroic performance.
Yeah,
and you get like crazy outlier TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin game. And then at the end, as the cherry on top of the Sunday, you get James Johnson getting ejected. What a way to end your season. I mean, I know you want the championship, but if you go, you play well and you lose in Game 7, at least you had that Game 6 at home as the last game in that building of this season. Beautiful. Just beautiful stuff, Reed.
Beautiful stuff. I love it. So let's look at Game 7 a little bit here, because you would imagine it's not going to look anything like Game 6, right? The turnovers for the Thunder seem like those are going to need to go down. Do we just boil it down to as simple as, and look, we don't know what's going to happen, but the Thunder are now favored by 8.5 for Game 7 per FanDuel. That's a big favorite at home. For a Game 7. The Pacers went to Game 7 and haven't been favored in anything, I don't think, which is kind of nuts to me in all of this, which is like an interesting stat. So, go ahead.
No. I was just going to start talking. So, did you have a question? We can lead into it.
No, start talking. That's what the show's for.
The urgency that we were talking about, I feel like that's going to be there. But again, when we talk about youth, and like, I'm looking at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and like, what are we going to get from him? Is he going to be the MVP and have this monster game, which absolutely would make perfect sense if he was the MVP, but, or will he have that kind of like try too hard game and take away from guys who need to get going that we talked about, Chet, J-Dub, and the rest? It does boil down to, I think, more than anything, you could probably expect what you normally would get from the starting units. It really comes down to, can Caruso, can Hartenstein, can those guys get you something? Can you get any good minutes? Can you get some shots from Case and Wallace? Meanwhile, Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, Ben Shepherd getting 15 made shots from those guys and 39 combined points from them. And on a night where you get nothing from Benedict Mathurin,
like nothing,
that's surprising. It's going to come down to those guys, because Caruso, Wiggins, Wallace, Kenrich Williams, those guys gave you 10 points combined. And the role players playing better at home, it's
a very real thing. Well, look at the last home game, right? Look at Game 5. Case and Wallace gave you 11 points off the bench. Wiggins gave you 14. Caruso was a +8 off the bench. And you also had J-Dub go for 40, right? Yeah. Like, there's something to that. And I also think that the Thunder are going to look at this game and go, okay, it was like a very outlier performance. You mentioned that OKC started hot, and then the Pacers immediately came back and took, I think it was like 13-12 or 13-11 lead after being down 11-2, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And it was on some really hot 3-point shooting. And it was like, okay, if the Pacers are basically going to make all of their threes, that's going to be a huge problem. And they were plus 7 made threes in this game. So that's 21 points right there. Like that's a massive swing. And the Thunder, who are a good 3-point shooting team, probably don't feel they're going to shoot 27% from deep in game 7, particularly at home.
Right. Like, I mean, it could come down to just making 3-pointers and not making 3-pointers. But again, like I feel like we should have mentioned Tony Bradley much earlier in this because he's a guy that you get down to, what is he, 4th string, 5th string center, and he was productive for them for a while.
Yeah.
Until Miles Turner could figure himself out. So again, it's those kinds of guys. Those are going to be the kinds of guys.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, yeah, 3-point shooting. If one team comes out hot from 3, then you're really burying the other
team.
Could
be in some trouble, yeah.
Early. But whatever it is, if I think it's imperative for the Pacers to come out and just throw a big first punch. Like the Pacers have to come out and take an 11-2 lead. They have to make OKC call a first timeout. You cannot give that crowd, that environment, the early kind of like energy boost, because that's what's going to fuel these other guys. That's what's going to get everybody going. Once the Thunder get rolling, they are just impossible to stop. And the Pacers always are a risk to come back in any situation. But if the Pacers are going to have a shot, I really feel like getting OKC to call that first time out, getting that crowd to kind of like sit on their hands and forcing OKC, that young OKC team, like you're on the verge here. You're too young to keep this whole big picture out of your mind. 68-win team, dominant team, historically good team all year long. And here you are in a game 7 and you're down big. Oh my God. You want those thoughts to start creeping into J-Dub and Chet's head and Dort's head and all of these other guys, these young guys, even Shai. You want those little seeds to be in their heads and be like, okay. We got to do something. You got to get them to panic. Once they get into panic mode, then you can take advantage of their youth and experience in this moment. But if you let them come out and throw a big, huge haymaker at first, the Pacers are going to always be playing from behind. They're going to be on their heels the whole game. And maybe they make a big comeback at the end. And that's going to be another element of start strong, finish strong for OKC. But if you just in a game 7, you do not want to be playing on your heels the whole time, because that momentum can get away from you in a hurry.
Yeah, it seems like that, right? Like maybe I like kind of what you're saying there of like who's going to get that kind of strong start and be able to either build up a lead or be able to withstand a run in some adversity. And you've seen, particularly in this game, the Thunder not handle some of that adversity well, right? They had like 3 straight turnovers at one point after cutting the Pacers lead down to 2 or 1 possession. And immediately the Pacers score on all of those, and it was all she wrote, and the Thunder had no answer. So being able to kind of withstand some of that, I think is going to be important. Quickly before we go here, do you have a prediction?
I knew you were going to say, you got to pick OKC. You got to
pick OKC.
You have to.
Unless you're a Pacers fan.
But look, I consider this kind of a toss up. I'm going to pick OKC. I picked OKC to win the series. So I'm going to stick with it. They're at home. Their defense, if it's playing at its best, still too much to overcome for Indy. But this is not quite a coin flip, but I have so much respect for the Pacers that no matter what, it doesn't matter what that fourth quarter, you got to be down 50 going into the fourth quarter for me to be like, okay, maybe the Pacers won't come back in this one. Maybe. But, but yeah, I'm going to say the Thunder, but if it's the Pacers, does not surprise me one iota if it's the Pacers.
No, it's going to be a fun game 7 no matter what. I'm happy to see either of these two teams win. If I had to pick one, it's going to be the Thunder. But look, whatever happens,
can we make this series go 9? Can we make it go 11 somehow?
Great. That'd be pretty fun. I would enjoy. Give us something more to talk about as we get into the offseason a little bit more. That'd make our life easier. So that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. We appreciate y'all so much for listening. On Fridays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at Nola Jake on Twitter, and the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
And I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast, at John _Karalis on Twitter.
Game 7, baby. See y'all next time.